So naturally, it was an ICF 5-story building. And then I started to do all 100% LED lighting. This is 2013 design, 14 construction, and AC powered LED lighting. So of course, City of Fort Worth has their code for energy efficiency. We had to have a dimming panels. So we got Lutron to put 46 zone dimming panel. And come early 2016, we were a little late. 2015 was a great year of lots of rains in DFW. The project was delayed. So the bottom line is that dimming system did not work. So Lutron was not ready to take responsibility. They said the electrician did not wire it. If some of you are familiar with dimmable LED lights, they have an AC MC cable like in a commercial construction and a low voltage 18-gauge cable for controls. So they are called 0 to 10 volt dimming system. And so to make the long story short, we had hard sheetrock ceilings in the big lobby area. And they said, well, I think it's not wired correctly. So electrician is on site. I told the Lutron engineer, I can tear up the ceiling. If he did not wire it correctly, I'll charge him back. So I still owe him money. But since I already paid Lutron 100% money, if he's right, then you will pay for patching these ceilings back. Nope, we're not going to do that. We're not into this thing, and he walked off. And he refused to work on it. So I made a casual statement as he was leaving that as long as I own this hotel and I go to hotel conferences, I'll say never to buy a Lutron product. He didn't take me seriously.
Meeting your obligation.
So now it's 2016, the hotel opens, the dimming system doesn't work. By the way, it's still installed in my hotel. I've told this story in large 5,000 person, big C named auditoriums. And the system is there, the Lutron switches and everything is there, it doesn't work. So this is 2016, April, May timeframe, and I'm in my office and I'm thinking there's got to be another system that, you know, works better, easy to install. So I have a white telephone on my desk, it drains the lights lit up. And I said, okay, there's power in this Ethernet cable. Is anybody doing power over Ethernet powered lighting? So I started doing Google search, and that guy popped up right there. So Louis Suau, my business partner now, at the time was at Cisco for 26 years at Cisco, and he was spearheading development of POE powered lighting, and he's doing projects in UK at Cisco, CEO's suite, you know, and a few smaller projects. So this is now May of 2016. He's in Florida. I said, there's a high-tech conference next week in New Orleans. If you want to come meet there. There's another funny aspect of that story. I was using at that time an AOL email account. And he reaches out to his boss. He says, I met this guy. Can I go see him in New Orleans? Approval for travel. He said, come on, somebody with an AOL email account, you know. Are you really serious that you want to go? So in any case, he got permission, we met at High Tech. And by the way, to close that story, that same former boss of his subsequently got laid off from Cisco and he wanted my help to get a job in Marriott. So the fate has it that AOL account came handy. So we met in High Tech New Orleans. And we went to some booths there, and then Louis invited me to a Cisco, their annual conference called Cisco Live in Las Vegas. I was shocked, 35,000 people. I've been to many Cisco Live conferences. I've actually spoken at Cisco Live events. So they had a whole booth, a large booth that was called Digital Ceiling. So he introduced me to several partners. They were making drivers, POE drivers, and many other devices, such as Delta controls. They made an actuator. So your air conditioning system has these VAV valves to open and close the air vents or reduce them. So they're POE powered air vents. So all of a sudden, my mind was racing that POE is not limited to just lighting. We can do so many things with it. So in 2016 summer, I come back, I'm remodeling my office building in downtown. So I can relocate tenants from Sinclair, that was an office building. I already own it. It's designed. I've got to get a lot of tenants moved from there. Some of them decided to take other office spaces in downtown. So in any case, the remodeling of my standard building, we said we will install POE powered lighting. So we had 12 Cisco 3850, 24 port, 60 watt switches, UPOE switches. And we were able to put 4 lights, very stylish lights per port. And then few can lights, you could do more than 4. So we finished that space and we learned so much about lighting. Since then, we have a CVS in that building. But to power those, yes. CVS, like a pharmacy.
Oh,
So downtown Fort Worth CVS is a 2-story CVS that runs on.
I was thinking it was another technology.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are anchored by a CVS.
Okay.
And then we have that building is 10 stories. The basement is the hotel back office. Then we have a sub-basement, which is not too many people know, that's our laundry area for the hotel. We connected the 2 buildings via tunnel, the Sinclair building and Sanger building. And then we have 2 floors of data center. So that building has a lot of fiber, like 13 backbones. So we have a data center, we have high ceiling. So we run all lighting in that building using power LEDs. And I got so convinced on doing Sinclair project with that technology. So I went to Marriott in late 2016 and invited them. So they came in 2017 and I said, well, by this time I've got 3 electric bills and I'm saving about, and I've also changed my air conditioning from chiller-based system to VRF with Bldg, a variable refrigerant flow. So I'm saving 40% in my power consumption. So at that time, City of Fort Worth had in the building code, in office space, you cannot exceed 0.8 watts per square feet of electric load per light. And we were monitoring those that installed some devices. We were under 0.2 watts. So we were at 25% level, where architects were having difficulty even achieving 0.8 watts per square feet for all the lighting. And we were actually performing at 0.2 watts. Now, I did not know that I had a penalty clause with TXU at the time, that I had signed a 3-year power purchase agreement, and it said I can go 20% on either side of my average power usage, historical power usage. I've owned the building since 1998, and if I go below that 20% threshold, I'll be penalized. So while I'm saving 40% on my power bill on the actual units, I'm getting a $5,000 penalty per month.
You should have started mining Bitcoin.
No, what I did was I would in summertime have it leave the heaters, put heaters to consume more power. So my penalty is minimized, but I did pay on average $5,000 for the next 12 months till my contract expired. And since then I've signed a few contracts. I have 5 hotels and projects and buildings that I made sure there's no penalty clause. It's very tricky. We have a tendency to send you 20 pages to sign and you just, so where do I sign? And DocuSign has even made it more simpler. Just 3 clicks and the whole contract is signed, right? So that was kind of some of the lessons we learned. So I'm able to get Marriott on board that this is really energy efficient technology. It's sustainable, steps towards sustainable development. And they said, okay, we're game. If your city is okay with it, I'm using Cisco's switches. I'm using LEG. I bought the LEDs from LG. These are 190 lumens per watt.
Are you getting the same lumens output that you normally get?
I can get any lumens I want.
Well, of course you can, but I'm just saying
Yes,
as bright as.
But keep in mind, every LED, you can take every company's LED. They're inherently low voltage DC devices, right? Constant current, low voltage. So even the brightest street lights or airport runway lights, those LEDs itself are low voltage DC. If you're giving its desired current, then it'll give you the brightness you need. So this myth that POE powered LEDs are less brighter is wrong. It will perform to the same specs that AC powered LEDs will. Because in an AC powered LED, you have a driver, which is a cheap driver inside. Whenever you see an LED fixture, I own a hotel, and every now and then, either we have a flickering issue or a light will go out. It's the driver that goes back. It's not the LED. Because LED still has a 25,000 or 50,000 hour light. It's always the driver that's defective. A lot of these Chinese products that came to get so cheaper that if you look at a driver, it's really very basic, and that's what I realized in that. So this POE power is another byproduct. Since you are giving it a low voltage DC power to begin with, so that's your clean power. AC power is your dirty power because it has the fluctuations in it. So you are literally extending the life of the LED, right? And more importantly, if you guys get a chance to go to Sinclair in our restaurant, especially in our steakhouse downstairs, we have lights on the column that you can reach and grab. If you go in our lobby bar, we have 132, this fixture over a bar, which has 132 bulbs, like A19 bulbs. They're dimmable bulbs and we keep them at dim. Just reach out and touch them. There is no warmth in them. Absolutely no. They are at room temperature. So over 7,000 lights. I'm counting a long, 15 feet long RGB strip as one light. There are over 7,000, maybe 8,000 lights in Sinclair. They do not generate any heat.
Wow.
So can you imagine what happens to my AC load? I'm not generating any heat because it's not converting. The reason being, I am not converting AC into DC at every light fixture level, right? Secondly, they're very safe to touch. Most of them are plug and play. They have barrel connectors or Ethernet cables. So the Ethernet cable goes into the driver. That's where the intelligence resides. And these are external drivers. So one myth is, for example, every single light in this room, these long lights, I can easily power them with one port or maybe two lights with a single RJ45 port from a switch. So, one myth is it's one light, one port on a switch. That's not true. I have small can lights that are almost 790 lumens to be exact, almost 800 lumens. I can put 20 of them, 20 on a single port. Single switch port, 20 can lights. So this myth, then the next question that comes to mind is, if it's 20 lights, do they all come on and all go off at the same time? No. I can have 8 individual on and offs on a single port in a single driver. So I can have groups of different groups, but as long as they're maximum 8 groups. So in Sinclair headboard, it's a hotel, I have 7 lights on the headboard. And I have one port controlling all 7 lights. So I'm not consuming that many ports. As a matter of fact, I'll make a statement. Sinclair was built with 60 watt port switches. In 2019, we now see 90 watt ports, switch ports. So I can do the Sinclair project. If I was to redo that project, it will take 1/3 less hardware, 1/3 less labor. And I can't say 1/3 less cost because cost has gone up a little bit, both on the cable side, labor side, as well as some switch ports. But overall, it'll be cheaper to do Sinclair today than it was in 2017, 18, and opened in 19. Let's go to the next slide so we can go see some. So Sinclair Digital is a company we formed after Sinclair Hotel was completed. We are consultants, designers for this low voltage infrastructure. So we are doing a couple of projects right now. So I'll let you guys read this a little bit.
Is this just about lights or are there other?
No. So at Sinclair, you have mini bars. You'll see it in the image.
There's other lights there.
But we are about to do the entire air conditioning in our hotel. If this hotel, the entire air conditioning. And TVs, of course. Full size hotel TVs. So we are getting there, right? The idea is to have absolutely all DC powered building. Don't even have AC powered building. But you still need by code those AC outlets, right? I'm going to answer those questions. Okay, so I hope you have a chance to see. The clicker somewhere?
No, it's not clear. That's just so you can see
Okay.
what's up, what's behind you.
Okay.
Here's our clicker.
If you can pull.
Okay, we're good.
So this is a very important slide. We were raising money first round for our company last summer. And it's hard to explain people what we do. So, we said, okay, let's simplify it for people. I started using this phrase before this slide that we are similar to what Tesla is to auto industry, right? When I say that, what I mean is we are so radically different as Tesla car is compared to an internal combustion engine car. That's how radically we are different. So here is a comparison we lay out. How what we do is similar to what Tesla is. So here's a little history of Sinclair building. It's a 1929, 16-story plus a basement, was an office building. Sinclair Oil is an anchor tenant. It's registered both on the federal register as a historic building, state and city. It was fun doing this project. Now I can say it's fun, but doing it. I learned a lot about this because it has so many historic features. That there was a lot of preservation had to be done. So much so that we could not even drill a hole to push our cable through a marble, and that marble exists on every floor in the hallways. So we wanted to put these POE powered door locks. We only have them on the 16th floor, but that was a non-historic floor. It was water storage tanks and elevator equipment. We converted that into guest rooms. So that's only non-historic floor. So we have this POE powered subloy lock. But for that lock, you have to push the cable, Ethernet cable, to put your controls up there. And historic commission would not us. So this is how tough it was. But when at the time I said, I'm never doing another one of these historic buildings again. But now I'm looking at one project.
Never say never, right?
Because, you have learned so much. I almost cost me $5.5 million extra here. But now I think I can do a better job and don't waste that $5.5 million. So these are the two buildings. So Sinclair is behind, and this is my office building I was talking about earlier. The CVS, you cannot see, but this is the red sign CVS. These 2 floors are CVS. And this has a data center floors, office. So some of the tenants from Sinclair moved here. And this is our lobby. This is all original 1929 era, not the carpet, but all the marble, all this arcade ceiling, not the lights. 100% lights in Sinclair, including its exterior lights. We'll see pictures in a minute. They run on power rating. So why Sinclair became popular? This technology has existed prior to Sinclair in office buildings, but mainly for one chopper, a 2x2 or a 2x4 chopper. It would be in a 50-story building. And it's one Ethernet port into one light fixture. So the driver resides above, either inside the chopper, they make those drivers, or right above the chopper, on the backside. Sinclair was an example that you have 200 different types of decorative lights. And it's a luxury hotel, or no, more than 200 types of decorative lights.
Everything's architectural.
Yeah, because it's an iconic art deco thing. So you will see, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you some images. So this is kind of a summary of, and somebody asked me what all is here in terms of technology. This is a little bit of summary and I'll explain. This is a typical fancy lights, POE powered. This is what the infrastructure looks like in each room. There's an 8-port Cisco switch here. It's a CDB switch. Since then, we've seen a switch now that we're playing with. It sits in the palm of my hand. It's half a pound, 8 ports, 90 watts each port. Less than half a pound. Transition is probably rather. I mean, so this switch is, if somebody has seen a CDB, it's heavier because it has a power supply over there. And it has a heat sink on it to dissipate that inversion losses, right? Which there isn't any actually. And here is the digital electricity. Some of you have asked me what that is. Here's a rack. The future of any building is a rack. Utility comes in, AC power, feeds this rack, and the entire building gets power distributed like this. This looks like a data center. A ladder, exposed 18 gauge cable. I was about to say 18.2, but no, it could be 18.4, 18.8, 18.16. So this is where it got very interesting. Sinclair has 12 guest rooms per floor. So conventional wisdom, we pulled 12 18.2 cables in, and 2 extra, one for the hallway and 1 extra pair. We had an issue. It rained during construction and moisture got into our conduit, and the cable was indoor rated cable. But I learned another thing, that in future, spend 15-20% extra and buy indoor outdoor rated jacket. So that will resist moisture. So when we replaced it, instead of so imagine 16 stories, 14 cables per floor. Can you imagine the bundle size? Right. So even though the cable did not have to be in a conduit, you still have a penetration from one floor to the floor, so that has to be 5-part. So you have a bundle of cable going up, and then 14 will branch off to that floor, the next riser goes up. It turns out we can get one single jacket and 28 cores. So 1828 cable, which would be third the diameter of 14 pairs. With the individual jackets grabbed together, the 1828 core, 18 gauge, but in a single jacket was a third the size of that. So we have both installed there, and you can see the difference, so all of a sudden, some of you have seen cable being pulled in buildings. Can you imagine 14 spools are being pulled all the way from basement to 16th floor?
That's
Instead-
copper, right?
18 gauge speaker cable. It's a speaker cable. It's 82% less copper than your electrical cable.
Okay.
So it's very, yes, sir.
Does it still have the twisted members like traditional?
The 18 gauge cable we are using is not twisted. So you're looking at Cat 6, that's twisted. So this is 18 gauge, it's like a speaker cable, typical white.
You can still use it for.
No, we're using separate Cat 5. So
it's just-
this is only to run the digital electricity. This cable is,
It's dedicated to power purification.
yes, DC power, right? And the reason, actually the cable is made for your low voltage devices like your fire alarms or your speakers. This ceiling has speakers I can see. I bet you that's an 82 cable rental, right? When I built Sinclair, it was $86 for 1,000 foot roll. So basically, used to be, have you seen, they put 14 rolls on a ladder and they're pulling 14 cables and pushing it up. And when we redid 3 floors, I think, it was just one cable. So easy to pull. So it turned out we had 2 or 3 vendors, and one of the names was here earlier, Superior Assets. They can they have plants in Texas and Georgia and other states. They can quickly make a cable any number of strands you want. They can make a 40 strands, 1840 cable for you in a single jack.
Whoa.
So that saves you so much time. Labor is money because labor is expensive. And so there were a lot of lessons learned in this project. Right? One thing you'll notice to answer earlier question, what else is POE power? This is a drawer mini bar. I think they call it 42 liter. It can hold 2 12 packs of drinks, beer, wine, liquor. Because our hotel is it's a drawer mini bar. There's a TV in this mirror right here. Every room has a TV. It's actually an infotainment center. It's interactive. It can be a TV when you want it to be a TV. It can give you any hotel functions. You want to order toiletries. It's supposed to be, and we don't use that function. You can order stuff from here, but then we have to have a dedicated person to talk to you on the other end. And labor is very hard to find these days, so we don't use that function. Technically, you can even call your valet car. You can order room service. You can see the room menu, all in this mirror. That's also POE powered. So when it goes off, you cannot tell there's something there. It's like such an amazing technology. You cannot tell there's a TV or entertainment system when it's off. It's a pretty decent sized screen. So that's also POE powered. So you see minibar, that, and then we have motorized window blinds. We have 750. So these drapes like you see here, we have 750 windows with drapes and shades. They're all motorized in the entire building. They're on POE power, right? So this is, when I get this question asked, when this project was done, what's the coolest thing I've done? Is it the POE powered lighting? Was it the minibar? Or was it the digital electricity? None. It was this stuff right here. This is what everybody said cannot be done. We are the first building in the world where 350 kilowatt diesel generator spec for this project as a backup power has been replaced by lithium-ion batteries. That's right. Actually, this is the inverter, which is too big. I only needed one door, but at the time they only made 1 megawatt inverter, and I only needed 87 kilowatt inverter. So the batteries are 2 shelves back there, just 2 racks. Each rack is 166 kWh. In Tesla terms, it's 1.6 times Model 100S battery. So 1.6 times the largest battery Tesla offers. Today, this is 2018 technology delivered in 2019. Today, LG is able to put 250 kWh in a single rack. So the density has gone up. Like in cars also, they're improving the density in the cars. Right? So this is an amazing technology where 2 racks are 500 kWh of power. So they give me for emergency backup elevators, stairway pressurization fans. Yes, sir.
So you size for a 4-hour, 8-hour?
So 2 hours is code required,
Right.
right? So, but with this battery, I get 6.6 hours. The reason being, I can only buy them in full cabinets. So if I needed 1 cabinet plus a little bit extra, I get to go to the next cabinet. You cannot buy partial. So it's multiples of 166 kWh. But in future projects, I don't want it to be just the emergency backup power. The software is so sophisticated. It can do peak load shaving. It can do your backup power to your building. So we had this Texas freeze last year, where luckily we didn't lose power, but we are now putting these systems. We have become the first national resellers for LG ESS. This is made by LG. And we are the first and only resellers.
So right now, if you have a power outage, do you have a transition to your 6-hour backup? Or is it seamless and at some point will it be a seamless microgrid?
So it is a seamless microgrid now. This one takes 8.5 seconds to flip over. Now the new one is 20 milliseconds. So 20 milliseconds is a UPS. Technically it's a 10 milliseconds, but they sell it as a 20 milliseconds.
So at 8.8, you've got an intentional glitch in your Ethernet. But at 20 milliseconds, it's.
You have a very smart member sitting beside.
We have a lot of smart members.
I wish I thought what you thinking at the time was buying it. So how I addressed it, if you come and tour my building, this is my software cabinet here. I put a 10 kVh UPS there to bridge that gap, the 8.5 seconds. Because you're right, my switches restart.
For the family 16 more seconds.
Nice.
So by having that UPS, I address that. Except not the elevator, sorry. They will have a glitch. But with the new system, no, it'll be sequence.
But 8 seconds in an elevator is nothing compared to a regular.
Well, still, it'll stop.
But people won't
That's a little
care.
disturbing, yeah.
But in a regular building, if the power goes out, the elevators, it's not likely it's to come back in under 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So.
But the UL 924 code requires to be under 10 seconds. 10 seconds is max. Under the UL 924. So any generator, any system that's UL 924 rated. And by the way, this got UL 924 certification. We own the certification. It's under our name. It was done on site. So the engineers were on site. First, we sent them all the paperwork. They went to Korea to look at the factory where it was produced, looked at all the components, and then it was brought on site and tested, installed. So they will actually see its emergency functions. They will do an overcharge by, we have a 480 volt step up transformer. So they will overcharge, taking up to 510, 520 and undercharge, just to see if the incoming voltage is higher than 500 or lower than 430. So just to make sure the range is there. So the batteries will still charge. They'll discharge and charge the system again, make sure it charges in X number of hours. It's not like we have an emergency in the morning, the system takes 3 days to charge, and we have another emergency in the afternoon. So those, I have never been through such an intensive testing, and I learned a lot about UL 924 in that testing. So they call it under voltage, over voltage testing as well. We had to buy these big heaters to discharge these batteries. Load bank basically is what we call them. And they're just got giant heaters. And I thought we put them in our stairway with metal handrails. I thought that metal was going to melt, like, right? Because the amount of heat they'll generate. You're discharging 332 kWh of storage in a matter of an hour and a half, you know. And it was just a lot. Yes, sir.
So the code for this, the building codes for Fort Worth, I'm sure were not up to spec for what you were trying to do. How did you work with them on creating the new codes, or what happened there?
I love the audience, by the way. These are the questions that I faced. And the history of this is, and I knew I had less time, I can write a book on this whole experience.
I would like to read that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I have an in-house architect. She's a business partner now, Hannah Walker. And she came from A&M, fresh out of college. I hired her. I think one of the smartest person that I've come across in my life. Young, 23, when she started working for me. Fresh out of A&M. Her genes were just like, her father was a fighter pilot, assisting pilot, retired colonel. Her brother works in the East, an engineer, mechanical engineer. I'm trying to hire a younger brother. He's a computer. He just graduated in cybersecurity, computer science option. So she was modeling, 3D modeling the building. I had a habit of walking behind her just to see what work she's doing. She can do some creative work. Little bit background on her. She's an architect. One of my requirements is you have to design this network, and I'm doing it totally on my own. I don't have any outside IT company helping me. So I said, you need to go to Karen County College and take the CCNA certification. All my 4 employees are there. They said, why? I said, you must understand network before you can design that. All of them go to class. She tells me one day, you know, I don't like this thing. I said, I don't care. I said, if I don't talk. So one Friday, she says, can I go home early? I have to prepare for my test, you know, have a final tomorrow. I said, sure. And Saturday exam. Monday morning, I said, how do you do on your final? I passed. I said, what did you get? Score. She's 100. I said, I knew that. So she aced that CCNA final test, Cisco certification. And I had set up bonus of $5,000 for everybody who finishes. I paid for their classes, and I said, there's a bonus if you get it. So she got married, and she said, I was counting on that money to go on my honeymoon. Her dad was posted in Okinawa, Japan, when she was born in Japan. So she wanted to go back to Okinawa. Her husband, who's a very cool guy, I became friends with him when they were dating. He's also an undergraduate in architecture. So it took a team to do this. And I had to build that team, right? Because nobody was doing it. So I had to build a team. So to answer your question, this is a little background on who she is. She was 3D modeling the whole building. Our future goal is when we do a project, we create a 3D model. We'll do a BIM model in design, and then we can populate.
Digital twin kind of concept.
Thank you. That's exactly the term.
Say it again.
A digital twin.
Digital twin, gotcha.
We are wanting to build an IP-based BMS. And digital twin is another terminology for a BMS, right? Where we should be able to, in the model, touch screen, go and see a room, and whichever light is on, you'll see the model that light on.
Right.
So she's modeling this
BMS stands for what?
building management system.
Okay, yes, okay, I need that.
So
That's for everybody online.
I had to check. Okay.
So she's modeling this building, and I come behind her. I said, what is this big room that looks a different color? He said, this is our generator room. We have a kitchen there, we have a steakhouse. I said, that's a big room. He said, yep, it's 25 feet by 25 feet, 525 square feet. I said, that's a big room. How big is the generator? He said, 350 kW. This is the storage tank, 500 gallons. And these are the lines, and she's modeled the whole thing. This is the fuel lines coming to the alley, and this is the smokestack, taking all the smoke out. So 5:30 in the evening, I come home. I have one bad habit, and that's how I met actually her. I am before 4 a.m. guy every single morning, but 5:30 in the gym. So I'm on the treadmill running, and my mind is still thinking, in this day and age, why are we still using diesel-powered generators? How come we don't do batteries? Now, I own data centers. I have the APC UPSs there.
Yeah.
So, is anybody taking a system? So I have a very smart engineer, electrical engineer, who's doing our project, two of them actually, with a large firm in Fort Worth, BHP, Hampton Brown. And I want to call him, and I'm waiting for it to be 8 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock, I called his son. I said, Larry, and I think I woke him up or something, the older guy. I said, why can't we have batteries in lieu of a generator? He says, I never thought about it. Let me go to office and research and get back to you. So he goes and calls me by 9 o'clock or 8:30 and says, I've looked through the code. It does not say the backup power has to be a diesel generator. So I think it can work. I said, okay, let's set up a meeting with the city. Let's talk to them. So it's a big firm, they do a lot of work. So he arranges a meeting with the fire chief, the head of building for City of Fort Worth, the head of electrical. So we said we want to meet concerning an issue at Sinclair. And they gave us time a couple of days later. We walk in there and he said, okay, what are we meeting about? Oh, what's the issue? And I go, we want to install lithium batteries. No, we want to install batteries in lieu of a diesel generator. And the first word that comes out is what? I said, we want to install batteries. He says, what kind of batteries? We don't know yet. We haven't found any yet. And what makes you think you can put batteries? So he opens his code book and he's already put his notes, stickies in there. He says, here is the code. And they read, okay, we read that it doesn't require to be, but what kind of batteries? And the fire chief says, what? So we don't know yet. He said, okay, if you can find 3 independent engineers who can stamp the drawing that this will work, and it is UL certified, I'll go for it.
And this was the fire marshal?
The chief, fire marshal in Fort Worth, and the chief building, and the chief, all sitting in the same room. So the building person is there. Her name is Allison. She's the head of the entire construction team in Fort Worth, and subsequently I'll mention that also. City of Fort Worth, some of you have tracked, bought the old Pier 1 building in downtown, and they are renovating it to move the city hall and all the surrounding people in surrounding buildings to the new building. And there was an internal email, which somehow got forwarded to me. Allison suggested to city manager's office, we should go look at Sinclair and put that technology in the new city hall. So
Awesome.
they had their consultants stay, and we are officially engaged now to give them our whole working on this thing. So they've engaged us
So they've engaged you as a consultant?
as a consultant to advise them on this POE technology in the entire city hall. So that's how much she got convinced. She's never been to my building, but city manager has been there all the time, and assistant city manager have been there. But Allison is as emotionless person as they get. She has no emotions. Because I guess at her position, she cannot show excitement or cannot be upset. She just gives you a yes or no answer, and you cannot make a change. I remember I had last minute inspection issue. We had a equipment rack, and our plans were approved and stamped, did not show a permanent ladder. And the mechanical inspector said, oh, I need a ladder up there, I said, we had a temporary ladder. No, I want a permanent ladder. And it had to be designed by an engineer, stamped, and then fabricated and installed. That would have taken a week, and our CO was being held up. And Allison, I went and saw her. She said, no, I cannot do nothing. Just gotta get a ladder and go back. I said, my stamp drawings do not show that ladder. He says, well, the inspector said, you need it. You need it. So this is how rigid she can be. So in any case, that was a little background on how the batteries got improved. So the first person we contact looking for our 3 engineers, professor of Bldg at UT, who heads the battery and renewable energy lab at UT. So Dr. Fahimi, his wife is a professor of Bldg at TCU. So he says, well, I don't know if such a battery pack exists, but if you find it, I can test it. So that was all help he gave us. But he says, in principle, it can replace a generator if you can find it. He says, I haven't seen one, a lithium battery pack that is ready for this thing. So we, APC and multiple companies, we looked, everybody's website, reached out to several of them. Everybody said, we're thinking about making one, but we don't have one. So again, in the meantime, the general contractor is putting pressure on me. He has cut open a hole in the first floor from where the generator has to go down because they're putting a new stair for the steakhouse. He says, I need to close my hole. Where is your generator? And I'm like, well, It's coming. We didn't tell them that it's going to be that. It's the largest GC in Fort Worth, Burn Construction did this project. And they reach out to my consultants, my electrical engineer. Hey, where is the generator? I heard something about like there's a battery. You better bring it quickly because it's delaying the project. And he says, well, I'm talking to my client. We're looking. So the GC called my banker because they also bank in the same bank. They bank in the same bank, so they have a relationship with them. We think the project will be delayed because Farukh wants to put batteries and they can find one, and we have to close this hole. So he put so much pressure that the Bldg guy, his name is Larry Jones, he comes up to me, him and Paul, his colleague, says, we've got a way to get him off our back. So let's go this battery thing, let's put a generator in the building. I said, fine, this is 3:30 afternoon, they come to my office, this is, we're getting a lot of pressure, He says, so fine, let's put a generator. They go home. I text in the morning at 7, you're not putting a generator. Tell them to close the hole. He said, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. We're not putting, tell them to close the hole, put a stair, we'll deal with it. So I'm on a trip to Korea unrelated to batteries. I'm having dinner on my final night, 6th night. And there were 16 of us from America touring this LG's air conditioning manufacturing facility. So I happened to be seated on a 4 persons, with my friend from LG, Ruben, another MEP engineer from Fort Worth, Brian, who's a very good friend now, and then an LG executive who's head of air conditioning for LG for North America. His name is Jagu Park, and he asked me, so Farukh, how's the project coming along? Ruben goes, good. He's trying to find a battery. He said, what kind of battery? He says, he wants to replace a diesel generator with a battery. And he goes, have you seen our ESS? I said, what is that? He says, it's an energy storage system. I said, no. And the LG guy next to me, my friend, he says, I didn't know we have an ESS. I said, yeah, we do. He said, where are you tomorrow morning? I said, I'm flying out tomorrow, but I have a meeting at the head office, LG headquarters in the division. He said, I'm going to send my engineer to see you. So he sent this engineer, very, very sharp guy, Ryan Yoon. Ryan had worked in Japan with a battery company, LG brought it to do their ESS. So in 2016, now this is early 18 or late 17. So in 16, a year earlier, they had developed and installed this ESS, energy storage system, in large quantities, several hundred megawatts, in containers, out in the suburbs of Seoul, where they're harvesting solar energy, charging these batteries and putting them back in the grid. So they developed all this software to push the energy back into the grid, all this management tools. So this is like a year and a half old. Only in Seoul, South Korea, has not left their territory yet. So Ryan comes to me, he has printed PowerPoint of the battery system. So he shows me, we told him what our application is, emergency power. He didn't know what UL 924 certification is. So we kept saying, show us, it needs to switch over in less than 10 seconds, the UL requirement. He said, no, our battery system will take 40 seconds to switch over. I said, why? He said, because of, I said, draw the circuit code. So he pulls out a paper, shows me what the circuit. I said, this can be modified. He said, no, it cannot be modified. I said, yes, it can. So in any case, I drew how it can be modified. This is Friday afternoon. I fly home that day. And he says, no, it cannot be done. On Monday night, I get an email. That's Tuesday morning in Seoul time. And he says, oh, we discussed internally. It can be done. It'll work. I said, all right, good. So they got so excited that they gifted me that system.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Because they thought, if you can make it work and get it UL certified, and then a city, a large city, it's a Marriott Hotel, and this could be huge for them, right? This would be open a new avenue for them.
Yeah.
So the system arrives. So this is a very interesting story. I timed it arrives on January 1st, 6 a.m., 2019. So the roads are completely empty in Fort Worth. It's an 18-wheeler that comes in. I have him go against the one-way park next to the building. We have a forklift. I've got 5, 6 guys. We take it out and we put it in the sidewalk right outside Sinclair. So up until then, we did not have dimensions in the system. So my GC kept asking me, well, give me the dimensions. How would you take it down there? I said, hey, don't worry about it. We'll handle it. So for 1 week, I didn't tell anyone. I found out. I did not tell anyone. I put went to Home Depot for a blue tarp. It rained for the next 6 days. And I had it tarped up, and they asked me, well, why aren't you moving inside? I said, well, it's raining, we're trying to figure out. This is 8,800 pounds. So we slide it in, and we close the door. Now it's sitting in the lobby of Sinclair. There's a basement. So every 2 hours, I go down with a flashlight to see, is the floor cracking somewhere? So the next question is, how do you take this box down in the basement? We have this steel stair, going down, but it makes a 90-degree. You were in my building.
Yeah.
You went down to the
Yes.
basement. So you take 6 steps down, turn 90 degrees and go down. And there's a tight opening. So I'm now it sits there for next week because I'm waiting for the next Sunday now. So what we do is, in that stair, we go to second floor and drill a hole, 2 holes in the floor to put 2 anchors down there, put a beam across to support with 2 5-ton manual pulleys. And we lift from 2 points because it's sitting on the edge. So it has to lift up and slide over that opening. And when 8,800 pounds starts to move, I think I managed to get 15 guys to the ropes to get there. So those are the stories behind it, that so many things fell in our lap in this project, that any one of them, if it not happen, it's like 80% luck and 20% effort is what I call this.
So one more question. So when you look at the expense of doing it this way versus the expense of building normally with power, and what would you define as your ROI and time frame? Your break.
ROI doesn't apply to us because this technology did not cost us more than traditional AC.
Oh, really? So you're positive from day one.
We positive. Plus we're saving money on recurring
Everything.
content. That's very important. I get that question asked. ROI doesn't apply. This technology, even today, it's even more cheaper because the electrical costs have gone up more than twice now.
Yeah.
In the past 12 months, your electrical cable is more than twice now. Your labor is very expensive. I found out we are talking to a large company called Southwire. I don't know how many of you know who Southwire is. They are one of the largest privately owned companies that makes electrical cable. 50% of total electrical cable in North America is made. So in North Texas, Encore exclusively buys their cable from them. Home Depot and Lowe's exclusively carries Southwire cable. So next time you're Home Depot, you look at a label, it's a Southwire cable. So they are potentially our first round investors in the company. So they were telling us the average age of an electrician in this country is 59 years old. Wow. Young people are not going into that trade. And they're, especially union electricians in New York and Chicago and San Francisco, are getting very expensive. Right? Can you imagine I can move the same amount of power in a building using 82% less copper without any conduits? Look at the carbon footprint reduction. You know how much electricity and resources are used mining copper?
Yeah.
That's a saving right there. That's pure carbon footprint reduction. So, such as, a lot of learning in this part, right? Doing it for the first time. No outside consultant to design a network. 4 young kids, all fresh out of college, all A&M graduates. This is a Texas built, Texas designed, and Texas implemented and commissioned project. I just got an award from Dallas Innovate and DCEO, the most innovative hotel award. So I was asked to speak. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't even prepared to get the award. It was at the Perot Museum a few weeks ago. And I was asked to speak, and I said, all I can say is, we're not from Silicon Valley. We don't have anybody who came from UCLA or Stanford to work for me. These are all Aggies, As much as people want to make crack jokes on Aggies, this is a handiwork of Aggies right here, So it's really training for young people. And people ask me, were you concerned that they had just left college and started working? Because that was what I was looking for. Blank slate. I did not want to bring hard habits to them. Oh, we used to do things this way. No, They don't know nothing. I mean, can you imagine? Two are architects, one is a computer science major, and one is a mechanical major. And what they do here is nothing what they learned in college. So in the process, Cisco became a huge partner, and Louis was at Cisco. Intel became a big partner. I haven't shared videos with you on this project, I think. We were featured in Today's Show, the morning after Super Bowl 2020. It was a grand opening in January 24th of 2020. So NBC team was on site filming. Intel came and did this 500 drone show, which you've seen Intel do it.
Yes.
It makes them amazing. So that was part of our grand opening. Today's Show featured this. There's a 3-minute video clip. I think it's on YouTube also. If you go to Today's Show, Sinclair building, you'll see that clip on it. So it got featured in Australia, front cover of a magazine, in UK, the Premier Hospitality front cover magazine. I'm the finalist for, what's the award in California? Constellation.
Constellation.
Supernova. So that's a worldwide global award. We were the finalists, and Shell, so it was the finalists. There were 4 finalists, and then it was voted by people. So Shell got an award for some technology innovation, but they have 60,000 employees at board. So even their employees could vote us out.
Yeah.
But so we have been promoted, and we have gotten a lot of recognition. I got the Trailblazer Award from City of Fort Worth for 2020. And I was featured on the DCO magazine in summer of 2020. And then there's a smart building. What's the
Green Building.
we got a Green Build Award last year, 2021. The conference we went to in Phoenix. Realcomm. So this Sinclair was featured as the smartest building in Realcomm. If any of you have followed Realcomm, that's a trade show all about smart buildings worldwide. So they featured this in their 2020 annual conference as the smartest building in North America. And I've done a couple of webinars with them, with the CEO of Realcomm. We've been featured in every one of their conferences. So we speak at every one of their events. But this is like all of you are from technology background. This is version 1.0. Keep reminding people. If I was to redo it, there'll be a lot of things I'll do differently, right? Like in any tech, this is 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We started designing this in late 2016, right? So we learned so much from this project. So much that our partners such as Cisco and Intel and LG got encouraged. So LG redesigned this. At the time, this was the smallest size I could get. Now I can get a single cabinet, 250 cable. So it's made so compact.
You mentioned things that were powered, the mini bar,
For POE power,
the TV, the POE power to the mini bars, the TV to the lights,
window blinds and like.
and the window blinds.
And then
So-
traditional access points, cameras, which are always been POE power.
So everything like that is relatively low power, you would say. I mean, it doesn't.
My Ethernet port is 60 watts in this.
Okay.
So as long as the budget is under 60 watts.
Okay.
But we also know if we need to do more than 60 watts, you can get 2 ports.
Okay.
Right? Because one thing I wanted to highlight, which is very important, Louis and we talked last month, Sinclair, there's a difference between Sinclair and my Sandra building. We use 2 terms, distributed architecture and centralized architecture. The difference being, Sinclair does not have IDF closets, none. There's no IDF closets in Sinclair. We do not take any real estate because we do not have any rack that switches on it in every floor. We don't have that. So it's a distributed model where the switch is in every guest room. And for internet, we use GPON. Our friends in our neighborhood, Tellabs, it's a Tellabs GPON system. And you can make now cable that's hybrid. Yes.
Okay, so the big question in the hotel room for the user, the hair dryer, the iron.
Yes. So so Sinclair was a hybrid. So we have a particular Prius, right? We're not quite Tesla yet. My wife drives a Prius. and it's still one of the most popular hybrid cars ever made. She has a 2012 version. And I already ordered a Tesla Model Y for her last year. But they keep trying to send me a new car, but I want the new battery, the 4680.
4680, yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be made in Texas, hopefully.
And also,
So they threatened me to cancel my order. It's fine, go and cancel it. I'll put it in to get the 4680. I have a choice. I'm paying $66,000.
Yeah.
I have a right to say I want the 4680.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
You know, so I said, go and cancel. So I ordered a Model S Plaid,
Oh,
which they canceled because I wanted that also with 4680. So that I know they're not producing anytime soon because that's made in Fremont and they don't have the 4680 plant there. But Texas Austin facility is where the 4680. So they did not cancel my Model Y, which is encouraging. But that means they will give me the 4680.
what's the date?
So 3 times they've tried to give me the VIN number. Go ahead and get your insurance and proof of payment, and you can pick up the car. And I said, no. Does it come with 4680? I know it doesn't because I use every day on Tesla. But there's a rumor that it's coming any day now. The advantages are it's a newest. The current 2170 is 7 years old. The 18650 is 15 years old, and the 4680 is 5 times more denser. Of course, the fatter cell. It'll cut your weight down by 30 to 40% of the battery pack. It's a structural battery, so it'll improve the performance of the car. If they keep the kWh same, it'll improve your range by 25-30%. So I want to see, they haven't announced, will they make the same size pack, like 75 kWh, or same range, 330 miles? They haven't announced that. I think the moment they announce it, people will stop buying the older Model Ys. So that's where, so now she gets her hybrid replaced by a Model Y. I was going to tell you that here we think I was going earlier with this thing that this distributed approach works much better. It cuts your cabling by more than 80%. So imagine in this hotel, she has an IDF closet somewhere on the first floor, and they have access points. There should be in someone installed somewhere, internet usage. But she's running cables all the way from the IDF closet to wherever she needs that access point. With this model, I can take the switch, since I need to power all these lights, I can bring a switch in the ceiling, right? And I can power this with an 18-2 cable from a word server. So the only thing sitting somewhere in the building in one place, in a multi-story building, is a word server rack, this one. And I'm running one of these white cables to my switch that's sitting in the ceiling, the center of the ceiling. So let's say the switch is in the center of the ceiling. From the switch, I now have drivers to connect to the Ethernet ports on the switch. Here the driver, see the little blue driver, this blue driver, that's a driver. So my drivers are in this, so this is in the closet in your, because Sinclair ceilings were low, so we wanted 9 feet clear in the room, and it only gave me 3 inches behind the sheetrock. Not enough room to put this device. So I took the top shelf of a closet, one side, and put my switch and drivers in there. And it's locked. Guests do not have access to that. It has a magnetic lock on it.
Farukh, there's a question online. I am not an electric guy, but is there a way to combine with solar energy?
Of course, we're already doing that in New Haven. We are building the first net zero hotel that should open second quarter in New Haven, Connecticut.
Awesome.
It's called Marcel Hotel, which runs on solar during the day and then generates enough power to charge the batteries to use it.
Awesome.
Okay, so here is this. These pictures are to show you the different light fixtures. Like you were talking about LED lights. Here are examples. These are OLED lights. So they are exact same thing that your OLED screen is on your cell phone, on iPhone. The same factory is now making iPhone screens because these lights are too expensive. And they didn't have enough buyers, so they retooled the factory and they make OLED screens for iPhones up into the factory. So again, this gives you an idea. Every light, everywhere you go, you see is running on POE power, 24 volt DC. These are the little lights I was talking about, 20 of them. We custom made these into like 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch square with Bldg G6 LED chips. And they are 190 lumens per watt. At the same time, they were making G7s with 220 lumens. This is 2018. they were making 220 lumens per watt in 2018, 4 years ago. And, but we had already made lights with 190 lumens. You don't get too many lights today with 190 lumens. Talk about 220 lumens in 2020. That's what's very important for us. That we get high luminosity, high lumens per watt light. The next image, please. These are some more examples, right? This is our kitchen. These are the lights that were left over from the building next door. They only come on when they're cleaning the kitchen. Normally we keep them off. It's a dark environment here. That's why, these. And then this is a fixture I was talking earlier above the bar, which has the A19 bulbs. You can grab, reach, and touch those bulbs, and there's absolutely no warmth. They are as cold as your room temperatures. You can grab these lights, they're a little higher, you can touch them. In the basement, they're right at your waist height. No warmth at all. If you go back to the previous picture, I want to point something out. In these bar surfaces, we have round, you can barely see a little round line there. That's a wireless charger built into all these bar surfaces. You just put your phone down,
Yep.
you're having a drink, and your phone keeps starting.
Awesome.
Next
We
picture.
have that too.
Do you want to say greet to
Long
me?
time to charge your phone though, right? Several beers.
So once again, these are the lights in the basement. This is our basement steakhouse. We don't have meeting space. We have a boardroom for 14 people. So we do let people use this. We rearrange these tables for them to do their meetings. A lot of people want to do their meetings there. This steakhouse is very popular, by the way. Wicked Butcher Steakhouse. It's same price points as Del Frisco's or Capital Grill, but more popular. We are sold out every weekend. Friends call trying to get in. That's when I know I've been talking to this guy in 2 years. So I tell my wife, turn my phone off.
So-
I don't see it. Again, some images. This is our boardroom, just to show you some of the interior. Of course, most people do not know we have all this technology. It looks as normal as any hotel. Next one. So this is our guest room, typical guest room. So all these drapes and roller shades are motorized. This is where the mini bar is in here. And then this is POE powered. All these lights, this is a color change. Blue light is a color changing light back in that cove there. And you have an option, you put 15 colors, pre-programmed, pick any one of them. People love that feature in showers. So few rooms do not have this code. It's a historic building. We have 164 rooms and 56 room types.
Wow,
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Oh, man.
that's a lot.
So I think a good 30, 40 rooms do not have that code, doesn't have light. People get upset. The last time I stayed here, I had this light. I said, this room doesn't have a code. Okay,
I can imagine, I'm like, oh, wow.
because some of our bathrooms are facing the front window on Main Street. So sometimes when I'm leaving at night, you can see different colors in different windows. Everybody likes different colors. So our goal is to eventually have an app that you can sit in the lobby and change the temperature in your room, because you can do that. It's all connectivity. You're talking to your company now that you want to bring that tablet in the room. Problem is, it's a Marriott reservation system. It's not easy for them to share that we interface it with everything. So they're very backward, old-fashioned. Very proud of their reservation system. Next slide, please. So again, typical. So this is the touch screen. Each room has all your scenes and lights are controlled by these touch screens. So this is the option for your window blinds. But here we have pre-selected scenes for you. You have simple off, on, romantic, cocktail, good morning scene. These are scenes. Good morning means the brighter lights will come on, the window blinds will move aside, roll up, In romantic, it goes to purple or something, So these are ultra thin TVs. They're like 1/8 of an inch. 10 TVs. They're flexible. You can,
So the wallpaper.
the wallpaper,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So what's missing from here is the Kohler BTD valve.
Yeah, it's not here.
No, it's not. So you might want to tell them about.
So we have digital showers in this building. I'll tell you the more features, it's scary. If we collaborate with Kohler, so we have touch screens to bring your shower on. It has 3 options for you to get water from: handheld, a wall shower head, and a rain head. So you can select any one of those 3. You can do up to 6 on that option. So you can have jets, water jets in the wall. But then we also wanted to be a sustainable hotel. We couldn't use that much water. Right? So then it becomes, we even have steam, our suites have steam generators inside. So you push one button and it fills up your shower with steam. You get like a spa treatment. And then that is a feature that people really like, the touchscreen shower. It tells you the temperature. Now that can be voice activated, right? But then you have a listening device. That's another thing Marriott does not want. So you can go in and say, hey, room, change it to red, and just go there. You know,
There's no manual valve.
yeah, it's just touchscreen. So sometimes we think people are embarrassed to call the front desk and say, well, how do I? Because we can tell they haven't taken showers.
Right.
All right, next one, please. So this is our penthouse. This is the guest room portion, which is on a lower 15th floor, and this is on the 16th floor. The 16th floor is non-historic. You can tell historic from non-historic. This stairway is from 1929, so it's not, it would not meet code today. The rise and fall is just narrow. And so it's pretty large. We've had some celebrities stay here. A country singer that came to Fort Worth in 2019 when we first opened. I don't know, Scott Brooks, or famous country singer, he stayed there. Queen Bee was booked to stay there, Beyonce. There are many, I mean, recently the cast 1883, they were staying there. Former mayor of Fort Worth took a picture and then tweeted it, we have a rooftop artist putting in some level. So this is these are the CDB switches. This is our lobby area. They have no fan, they have no noise in them. They were super quiet. But here is a better picture of the ESS. Batteries are in these 2 cabinets right here. This is where our software computer servers and our 10 kW UPSs. And then this is our full picture of our volt server. Each server has 4 power supplies that are hot swappable. They're 3,000 watt each, so it's 12 kilowatt each machine. It has 24 slots on it. Some of these are empty slots. You can get up to different line cards. Each slot can give you up to 1100 watts of power. It looks amazing. You can go with this digital electricity 2 kilometers distance. So it can be in one building in a campus and connect to all the buildings without having to repeat that signal. So it can go 6,500 feet. So you can have in a basement of a 120-story building in New York and take power to the antennas. Yes, sir.
So when you say that, basically what, Ethernet is only.
It's not even.
Okay, I'm just gonna clarify. So that's all power. You're not trying to put a
So
signal.
their original name of the company was PET, Packet Energy Transfer. What they're doing is they're taking AC power, internally converting it into high voltage DC power. The high voltage is 336 volt DC, and then into packets of energy. Each packet is 0.84 joules, and then sending 700 packets per second across. So there's a receiver on the far end. So it's going as digital electricity, digits, like
Yeah.
binary numbers, right? So it's being collected on the other side, and then the signal, when the first packet arrives, it tells the this is the transmitter, and there's a receiver on the other side. So here's a receiver. So this receiver is telling them, okay, I received the first packet, go and send the second one. So this is where the safety comes in. If you have naked wires and you put your finger across, it'll hit you with a 0.84 joules, which is negligible, you won't even feel it. And the second packet is not done because it hit your finger, it didn't hit the receiver. So if you take two naked wires and put your fingers across, then no.
So because it's below 480 volts, it fits into low voltage.
No, it's under 60 volt fits into low. So this is not low voltage. This is class 2
You
power.
said it generates it, runs it up to 300.
336 volts. Low voltage is under 60 volts
Yeah.
by code.
Right.
This is 336 volts. So I never say this is low voltage. I say it's a class 2 power. Meaning you don't have to be an electrical contractor to handle it. So it's harmless if you touch it.
Technically, it's a limited power source.
So it
And limited power
falls,
source
it falls
circuits. are
into
different.
this.
Into the class 2 power.
Less.
Into the class 2 power where it's not hazardous to touch. So it's rated by UL and by NEC. And now they're ratifying a new classification of this as a class 4 power. The 2023 NEC code coming out now.
So
Well,
it meets all the code,
yes.
60 volts or.
It'll be Article 726.
So keep in mind, this is a Marriott hotel. If you think City of Fort Worth is tough, try building a Marriott with this technology. They will check you out 5 different ways with a handheld magnifying glass. So I mean, because can you imagine Marriott approving this system with their guests are saying, you know,
If I may, when we were prototyping this technology, Farukh wanted to see if he could power this technology, the switches, with the use of a Cat5 cable. And so he
big
had
switches, but the big switches.
there were Cisco 3850s with full 1.1 kilowatt power supply, so it's 2.2 kilowatt worth of power. And so he got the idea to get a regular Cat 23 gauge Cat 6 cable, or Cat 5e at the time. These
250 feet of spool, just to simulate the basement to the top floor and some extra. And we powered those big switches with this technology using that Cat5e.
In other words, each pair, and he only used 3 pairs
3 pairs
of the Cat 5e,
to power
had 1.1 kilowatts of power.
each pair.
So we were fully powering a 24-port switch, fully loaded with 60-watt POE,
Per port.
running on one Cat 6 cable. That ran for 2 years.
2 years, and it was a DOE grant to us. And we would just grab it. There's no warmth in that cable. It wouldn't heat up or anything.
Now, the vendor, their specifications is 18 gauge, which is why we use 18 gauge.
So my logic is,
But-
that in theory, it will work with a 23 gig. Of course, there's the disclaimer, they will say they feel safer if you use an 18 gig. But I proved for 2 years, actually running a load of 2.2 kilowatts on 3 pairs of 23 gauge using a Cat5e cable. I think I still can do it, but again, I don't want the vendor to say, well, we told you not to do it. So it happens. But in theory, it will work. I'm sure it works, but I mean, the electrical engineer in me tells me it's safe to work with that.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you guys offline. I've got some great ideas for that.
We have powered appliances with this, like full kitchen appliances. We are working with LG to power. Right now, there's a 14-ton condenser that's DC powered, high voltage DC powered, that we want to power with this. So the idea is a future building is off grid, and it's generating all its energy from solar, storing in batteries. It's generating solar, generating DC, storing DC, consuming DC, right?
And as far
So you eliminate double conversions.
Right, and as far as power consumption and BTU output,
It's
this is far more efficient.
absolutely, DC is far more efficient.
Reference a white paper from Department of Energy, PNNL. The author's name is Gabe Arnold, published in September of last year, titled DC Lighting and Building Microgrids. It tells you what they're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I wasn't here from the very beginning. I just want to.
You missed a great session.
I know. So do all the equipment needs to have a POE port, or does it need to have a DC?
So it depends, right? So here you see, this is taking power to the back of this switch. So this switch has 8 ports, POE ports, but it needs power. So the switch is made actually for AC power. But lately, when you see any appliance now, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, if it says now with inverter technology, let's say with inverter technology, it's very safe to give high voltage DC to that appliance because these are intelligent power supplies. Inverter means when you bring AC power, it's inverting internally into DC. So the last 5 years, you're seeing this now with inverter technology, phrase, or it'll just simply say inverter technology, microwaves, refrigerators, washer dryers. Because internally it's all DC now, right? Inverter technology means it's inverting your AC from your outlet into DC internally. If you give straight DC power to that appliance, it bypasses. It detects incoming to be DC and bypasses the inversion and feeds inside. We've done that. We haven't burned any yet.
So the appliance doesn't need to have an RJ45 connector. It only needs to have a DC.
Depending on which can it, so the RJ45 power, the POE power, this switch is 60 watts per port. The newer version we have are 90 watts per port. So as long as the budget is less than 90, for example, TV. Most IP TVs now have an RJ45 port or to bring your signal, your content, right?
Yeah.
So we are now working with LG to use the same port
Using single wire.
and then use to power and bring programming or content on the same cable.
They call them MOS, and they have a single wire solution.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty simple.
So the idea is future of homes and buildings should be DC. And among DC, POE is ideal because of both data and power simultaneously. So your controls become very simple. Your controls, you don't need a third-party expensive proprietary control system. The software, it should be open architecture, IP-based open architecture controls. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, Farukh, who wrote the book, DC Lighting and Microgrids?
So it's a white paper and it's Gabe Arnold is the author.
Gabe.
And it's
Dave Arnold.
Gabe,
Yeah.
Gabe, Gabe Arnold. And it's PNL published. So
Okay.
It'll be on the PNL website.
Right, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Any
to
question?
answer this question, can we say that wired technologies brings more security? Absolutely. So wired is always superior than wireless. No question about it, right? I want to answer your question.
Yeah, so if you guys want to play with POE lighting, Ubiquity has a handful of panels that are the generic panels that would go into a drop ceiling.
Sadly, those don't comply with true PoE. It's not true Ethernet. It's power over. They have a different classification. And their switches, although they almost behave like true PoE, they don't. I do like the products.
We test a lot of products.
Yeah. Well, I love how you guys design your lighting design.
We have gone through a lot of testing. Can you only imagine how many vendors approach us and send us their product? If I just take you to my office and show you the boxes we get, can you test this product and give us your feedback? It's unbelievable. You open a box today with a new switch. Hey, can you test our 8-port switch? And some of them are unopened for 6 months and we don't get a chance to.
So
Okay.
my question was, you guys, it seems like have a dual hub and spoke methodology, right? You have your packetized voltage going to the closets in each room,
Yes,
and then you have your Cisco CDP there.
CDB there, which is, can you go to previous slide, please? So this is in every room, one of these. It's called CDB.
And that's high density because that's a lobby, so you arguably have.
Correct. The lobby ceilings are very tall, like 14 feet tall. So we didn't want to put this in the ceiling. So we have a rack because there's no guest rooms. It does have a couple of bigger switches with fans. So there's noise, but there's no guest rooms there.
Yep.
So that's where our computer systems are connected for the reservations and our other infrastructures.
And the PoE stuff, that's 8 wire using half for the 60 watts.
No, all 8 wires are used for power and all 8 wires are used for data.
On part of the 802.3 BT standard.
Okay.
So all 8 wires are used for power and all 8 wires are used for data.
And then on your 18-gauge wire to go up to the risers.
Yeah.
Is that
Right here.
a special, so,
Speaker cable, it's a typical speaker cable that used to be.
right, so that
18
would be 16-gauge?
18 gauge.
And then two conductor or?
Two, yes,
Okay, cool.
two strands. Any more questions on your line?
No, we're good.
So this is, again, this is a podcast room. That was an interesting concept here. You know, beside technology, it's a beautiful project, as you guys can see. It's a historic building. That's what, after it's finished, it was so rewarding to see a finished product. You cannot get this kind of character in a building today. You know, all these fancy curtain walls and all kinds of systems, but especially in this 1920s and 60s, we are working on Magnolia Hotel in downtown Dallas. That's another historic building, very nice. Some cities have a lot more historic buildings. Detroit, I was very surprised. I was in Detroit downtown. New Orleans, you know, beside New York City and Chicago, of course. But some cities hardly have any. Austin has hardly any historic buildings.
So you're going to retrofitting the Magnolia?
Yes, it's being converted into a upscale five-star hotel. So we are going to be cutting it out inside and redoing it. It's a very good part, 120.
So all the lessons you've learned at the Sinclair, that's 2.0 or 1.5.
1.5. The 2.0 would be when I can do all my air conditioning and all my TVs, because we are working on that. They will test it.
Huh.
We may be building some new hotels ourselves with Intel.
No kidding.
Today.
Wow.
So, any questions? Let's see if there's another slide up.
Last one.
Okay. All right. I hope I didn't take too much time.